Good morning. This is Crystal Woods with Seasons in the Vine, and it's Fresh Friday. Today, I want to talk to you about fertile soil. Fertile soil. Have you ever noticed, and you might naturally just be drawn to people that just seem to just bear fruit over and over again. Like no matter what goes on in their life, they're just serving the Lord, and they really have a lot of faithfulness. Faithfulness is a fruit of the Spirit. And so they just walk in this faithfulness to the Lord, like no matter what they go through. And we just, it doesn't mean they don't have hard times, but they're still fruit bearing in those hard times. Well, I've been thinking about that today. And first, I long to be a person like that and hope that I am growing to be a person like that, to spur others on to be the same. That's what Seasons in the Vine is about. It's about bearing fruit in every season because we abide in Jesus the vine. So how does that happen though? And I've been talking to the Lord about this, and the one thing that keeps coming up is fertile ground. Like when seeds fall on fertile ground, it doesn't take a lot for them to grow. Isn't that a great application? It doesn't take a lot for them to grow. Like there isn't a lot of work that has to be done because they're already fertile. What makes fertile ground? Well, it's got to be soft. It's got to be pliable. You got to be able to dig into it. It's got to be nutrient dense, which means it's filled with all the good, godly stuff. See how I'm making a little parallel here. There can't be a lot of other junk in it, like rocks and roots and things that disrupt the growing. And so it's land that's well irrigated. So there's lots of water supplied to it, not too much, just the perfect amount. And there's not a lot of blockages and like things in the soil that would really impede the growing of the vegetation. And so that could be us. That could be us. Like if we don't have a lot of blocks and a lot of rebellion and difficulty obeying the Lord and like those yucky, hard, rocky places, if we can keep ourselves soft and tender, that can help in bearing fruit. The other thing I mentioned was being well irrigated. Like it has to be a soil that has a good water supply. Well, we have living waters within us. Is the well able to run freely? Or is there some blocks or hindrances? Is Holy Spirit allowed to move? And so that's another thing about fertile soil. Fertile soil is not hard. It's soft. It's malleable. You can get into it and dig things up in a way that's not very difficult. We know that a hard heart, the seed just bounces off of. And so when God is speaking to you through a sermon or through his own voice or through the word or through worship, and it's bouncing off of us, then we know there's a hard soil issue. And we can see that maybe in ourselves in certain seasons. I can look back on certain seasons and know like, man, I just didn't bear a lot of fruit in that because I was so mad. I was so angry. I was so hard-hearted. I was being so rebellious that the Lord was wanting to do a lot in me, but I wasn't letting him. And so those seeds would fall, but they weren't falling on fertile ground. They weren't falling on that soft, pliable soil. And then there's been other times, I talked about this years ago, probably 2018, the Lord came to me. And so a Fresh Friday from 2018 or 2019, probably when I released it was after it happened. So probably summer 2019, many years ago. What happened was the Lord came to me and said, like, you're going to bloom in this next season. And my idea of blooming was very specific. I thought it was going to look, I can't even share all the details because they're not really mine to share, but I thought very specifically it was going to be one way. And then, oh my gosh, like all hell broke loose in my house and so much pain and so much betrayal and so much warfare. And it was terrible. And I remember thinking like, this doesn't feel like blooming, because I felt like blooming was going to look like certain things, like certain good Christian things. Look, I'm being successful. And what ended up happening about 5 or 6 months after that, the Lord came to me one morning and was like, look how you bloomed. Look what you did. And it was actually in that time of persecution, trial, and tribulation that it was the first time I ever bore fruit, and a lot of fruit. And the Lord was like, see, you did bloom. It wasn't in what I thought it would look like. It was spiritually blooming. I thought it would look churchy, but it looked like Holy Spirit. And so what happened? What was the big difference? I was soft hearted. I was pliable because I had just been through my healing journey, thought I was ready to just skyrocket out there. And the Lord had me blooming in a completely different way, in a way that brings him more glory than doing churchy stuff, a way that was truly evident of the softness of my heart, that even in these really difficult times, I started to bear fruit in places I never could have bore fruit before. And so I bloomed. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about soil. I'm talking about you. Are you fertile ground? Can the seed of God, whatever he's planting, just germinate and multiply within you? Can we become people like that? Like, no matter what, we're so tender to the Lord and soft with him and desiring him to have his way in our life. We are soft soil. So I just wanted to share that with you today, this idea of fertile soil. What do we need to be fertile soil, and how do we maintain that so that bearing fruit is not a lot of hard work? It's natural because we're naturally bent to letting the Holy Spirit have his way. We have a tender, soft heart. We're plenty of water because we're connected to Holy Spirit and letting him have his way. And there's not a lot of junk in the soil that can disrupt the growth. Can you imagine a poor little seedling trying to grow and a giant rock is on top of it? Like, that would be really difficult. That would be really hard to do. And so be in fertile soil or hard, barren soil. The choice is ours. The choice is ours. Make your choice now, because when it gets difficult, you want to have everything in place. So just wanted to pass that on, a great little pondering thing, just a biblical principle today, and do some evaluation with the Holy Spirit, and think about, when you look at people who are just bearing fruit, know that it's coming because they're fertile. They're fertile, soft ground. And when the Lord even whispers something, they're moving into action towards what his word is saying. And they do that so softly, there isn't that back and forth battle. Much love. Enjoy. See you next time.